my reaction for the Apple event. Thank you guys for watching. I mean, like, it was leaked. What do you expect me to do? Alright, let's start off with the AirPods 3. Now, yes, there was a HomePod Mini, but it was just like a bunch of random new colors and that's it. So let's start off with the major upgrades. So the AirPods 3, they finally brought the design that was leaked for, I don't know, for the past 1 year, I guess. And yes, it is something like the AirPods Pro, just the neck twisted and like there's no ear mesh or something like that. And this year in particular, Apple was very much specific about spatial audio on everything that they released during this event. So the AirPods 3, yada yada yada, long battery life and a really good design. Yes, it does look less wonky compared to the first ones. The first ones were just AirPods without wires. But obviously they didn't bring noise cancellation because that would make the AirPods Pro redundant. But anyways, what I didn't expect was MagSafe to come through. So MagSafe ecosystem is actually vastly expanding throughout the Apple series, and bringing MagSafe to AirPods just makes it more obvious that MagSafe is the future for all Apple devices. With that being said, let's actually move on to the chips, because the chip announcements were the major ones. Now everybody speculated everything from M1X to M2 or M10 or something like that. Apple just went out of their way and introduced M1 Pro and M1 Max. Seems like they just took out the AirPods naming scheme and put it over here. But unlike the names, these are actually big announcements. The M1 Pro boasts a 10-core CPU, which is pretty normal, and a 16-core GPU, which is a little bit of an improvement from the 8-core CPU and the 8-core GPU of the M1. And Apple, as usual, they're giving out their numbers, but considering how well the M1 was received by the audience, I'm willing to place my bets on the fact that Apple is somewhat near the territory of the real-time actual usage. And I'm not really complaining about that. And especially this time, I'm gonna be really emphasizing on battery life. With the M1 MacBook Air and the M1 MacBook Pro really did outperforming their x86 competitors, at least in the Mac lineup. Battery life, as they seem, they're actually talking about a massive 70% jump, not just from the M1, but also from their x86 counterparts, which is a big claim that Apple makes for the M1 Pro at least. And I'm willing to place my bets they are somewhat near that mark. The I/O. So the I/O has been finally expanded to 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, a MagSafe port. Yes, MagSafe is finally back under the name of MagSafe Free. And then there is a SD card port and an HDMI out port and another Thunderbolt 4 port on the other side. So, but still, like, the company that took away the ports is actually bringing them back. Yes, you still need a dongle for USB-A devices, but I think the USB-C ecosystem has finally like matured enough in 5 years, but not too enough, and that's what I think Apple realized and brought back these specific ports.
Having a wide range of ports can make life a lot easier for pros. So I'm excited to share that we're adding ports to the new MacBook Pro.
Yes, Apple, Pro users need more ports. And now let's talk about the keyboard. The keyboard actually finally got rid of the touch bar. Many people thought it was redundant, but many people still are like, oh man, they removed the touch bar. I mean, like, the touch bar wasn't really embraced by every software that the Mac had. Only just maybe like Final Cut Pro, Adobe stuff, and that's it. I don't think a lot of people actually embraced it. But still, like, RIP touch bar, you will maybe be missed. Many people really did want the function bar back, and now it's back. And also, like, speaking of positives, Apple kind of like brought in ProMotion to all of their mainstream devices this year. Maybe like the proper Pro lineup. And speaking of proper Pros, the M1 Max chip. So the M1 Max has around like 10-core CPU and a 32-core GPU, which is pretty interesting considering that they just keep doubling the RAM and the GPU every time. And speaking of doubling the RAM, it can support up to 64 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM. The M1 Max does support it. And again, battery life claims. This time, as usual, usual. This year in particular, Apple just gave out same usual like battery claims of 17 hours of video playback and 11 hours of web browsing on the 14-inch MacBook, while the 16-inch MacBook can handle over 21 hours of video playback and 17 hours of web browsing. Pretty neat. But again, if we test it properly, it'll come around that mark, and not gonna lie, that is pretty good. Other than that, the event wasn't much with a new display. Yes, it has that ugly notch that houses a 1080p HD webcam, and also the mini LED screens that also have a 1600 nits peak brightness and 1000 nits normal brightness. And together all of this is the new 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook package. Again, really meh. So to conclude this Apple event, again, at the starting I said it was meh. Even now it seems like meh.